The money habit that changes everything. The habit isn't earning more, it's paying yourself first and making investing automatic. This single habit changes the way people think about money, creates financial discipline, and builds wealth over time. Introduction. What if I told you that one simple money habit could completely change your life? Not next year. Not in 10 years. But starting today. Every millionaire you've ever admired. Every person who enjoys financial freedom. Every family that has broken the cycle of poverty. Shares one thing in common. It isn't a secret investment. It isn't a six-figure salary. It isn't winning the lottery. It's a habit. A habit so simple that almost anyone can start it. Yet most people never do. Why? Because they spend their entire lives chasing more money instead of learning how money actually works. They believe that if they could just earn a little more, everything would change. But here's the truth. Some people earn thousands every month and remain broke. Others earn ordinary incomes yet quietly build extraordinary wealth. The difference isn't how much they make. The difference is what they repeatedly do with what they make. And that's exactly what you're about to discover. If you continue living without this habit, you'll likely stay trapped in the same cycle, working harder, earning more, spending more, and wondering why financial freedom never comes. But if you master this one habit, your relationship with money can begin to change forever. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this habit has transformed millions of lives, how to build it step by step, and how it can help you create a future that most people only dream about. So don't skip ahead. Don't let distractions steal this moment. Because the next few minutes could completely change the way you think about money, and perhaps the rest of your life. Let's begin. Chapter 1: Powerful Hook. Imagine waking up 10 years from today. You check your bank account. Instead of anxiety. Instead of wondering how you'll pay your bills. Instead of praying that your next paycheck arrives before your next expense. You see peace. You see security. You see options. You see freedom. Now imagine the opposite. You worked hard for 10 years. You sacrificed your time. You woke up early. You stayed late at work. You earned thousands, maybe even millions over your lifetime. Yet your account is still empty. Retirement feels impossible. Debt follows you everywhere. And every unexpected expense becomes another crisis. What separates these two lives? Is it luck? Is it talent? Is it having rich parents? No. For most people, the difference comes down to one simple habit. A habit so small that most people ignore it. A habit that doesn't require a high-paying job. A habit that doesn't depend on your age, education, or where you were born. It's a habit that quietly transforms ordinary people into financially secure people. While everyone else is chasing more money, those who truly build wealth focus on something completely different. They master one habit. And once this habit becomes part of who they are, everything changes. Their stress changes. Their confidence changes. Their decisions change. Their future changes. In today's video, you're going to discover the money habit that has changed countless lives. You'll hear inspiring stories. You'll learn the psychology behind lasting wealth. You'll understand why most people remain trapped in the same financial cycle year after year. Most importantly, you'll leave knowing exactly how to build this habit yourself. Because wealth isn't built by one lucky day. It's built by one wise habit, repeated over and over again. Stay with me until the end. This lesson could completely change the way you think about money, and perhaps the direction of your entire future. Chapter 2: Welcome to Psychology of Success. Welcome back to Psychology of Success. This is the place where we explore the timeless principles of wealth, discipline, success, and personal growth. Principles that have transformed the lives of ordinary people into extraordinary success stories. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every week, we share powerful lessons designed to help you master your mind, improve your habits, and create the future you've always dreamed of. If you've been with us for a while, welcome back. Your commitment to learning and growing already sets you apart from the majority of people. Every time you choose knowledge over entertainment, discipline over distraction, and growth over comfort, you're investing in a better version of yourself. Today's lesson is one of the most important financial lessons you may ever hear. Not because it promises instant riches. Not because it reveals some hidden shortcut. But because it focuses on something far more powerful, a habit. History has shown that wealth is rarely created by one big event. It is built through small decisions repeated consistently over time. A single habit can influence how you spend, how you save, how you invest, how you think, how you respond to opportunities, and ultimately, the kind of life you create. Think about the habits that shape your day. You brush your teeth without thinking. You check your phone almost automatically. You follow routines so often that they become part of who you are. Money works the same way. Your financial future is not determined by one paycheck or one investment. It is shaped by the financial habits you repeat every single week, every single month, and every single year. The encouraging news is that habits can be changed. No matter where you are today, whether you're struggling with debt, living paycheck to paycheck, trying to save your first $1,000, or already building wealth, the right habit can move you in a completely different direction. As we continue, I encourage you to listen with an open mind. Don't just ask yourself, "Is this interesting?" Ask yourself, "How can I apply this to my own life?" Because knowledge alone doesn't change lives. Applied knowledge does. So find a quiet place, remove every distraction, and give yourself permission to focus. The lesson you're about to hear isn't just about making more money. It's about changing the way you think about money forever. Let's continue. Chapter 3: Why most people never build wealth. Have you ever wondered why so many hardworking people never become wealthy? Think about it. Every morning, millions of people wake up before sunrise. They fight through traffic. They work long hours. They sacrifice time with their families. They do everything society tells them to do. Yet year after year, nothing seems to change. Their paycheck comes in. The bills take their share. The rent is paid. The groceries are bought. Unexpected expenses appear. By the end of the month, very little remains. Then the cycle begins again. It's a cycle that repeats itself not for weeks or months, but for decades. Many people believe this happens because they don't earn enough money. At first, that sounds reasonable. But if earning more money were the answer, why do we hear stories of professional athletes who earned millions and later went bankrupt? Why do celebrities with enormous incomes lose everything? Why do lottery winners, people who receive more money than most of us could imagine, often end up in financial trouble just a few years later? The answer is both simple and uncomfortable. Money does not solve money problems. Habits do. A person who spends every dollar they earn will usually spend every dollar they earn, even if their income doubles. When income increases without wisdom, expenses usually increase too. This is known as lifestyle inflation. The nicer car, the bigger house, the latest phone, designer clothes, luxury vacations. Each purchase feels like a reward. Individually, they don't seem dangerous. But together, they quietly steal the future. Many people don't become poor because they make one terrible financial decision. They become poor because they repeat hundreds of small financial mistakes without realizing it. Every unnecessary purchase whispers the same lie. You deserve this now. But no one asks the more important question. What will this decision cost me 5 years from today? We live in a world designed to make spending easy. Advertisements follow us everywhere. Social media convinces us that success must look expensive. Companies compete for one thing: our attention and our wallets. They want us to buy first and think later. The wealthy think differently. Before they spend, they ask, "Will this purchase bring me temporary pleasure or lasting value?" That single question changes everything. Story: The Two Neighbors. Imagine two neighbors, David and Michael. Both are 25 years old. Both graduate from college in the same year. Both find jobs that pay exactly the same salary. At first, their lives look identical. But their habits are completely different. David spends almost everything he earns. Every pay raise becomes an excuse to upgrade his lifestyle. A newer car. A bigger television. More expensive clothes. More dinners out. He believes he'll start saving when he earns more. Michael makes a different choice. The day he receives his first paycheck, he sets aside a small percentage before spending anything else. It isn't much. Some months it's difficult. Some months he wishes he could spend it instead. But he refuses to break the habit. 10 years pass. David earns more than ever before. Yet he's buried in debt. One unexpected emergency throws his entire life into chaos. Michael also earns more than before. But his savings have grown. His investments have multiplied. He sleeps peacefully because he knows he's prepared for life's surprises. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't a better job. It was one habit repeated over and over again. That is the hidden truth about wealth. Success is rarely created by dramatic moments. It is created by small decisions that most people overlook. And in the next chapter, you're about to discover the one money habit that separates those who remain trapped in the cycle from those who build lasting financial freedom. That habit has changed millions of lives. It can change yours too. Chapter 4: The One Money Habit That Changes Everything. So, what is the one money habit that changes everything? It is this. Pay yourself first. Before you pay your landlord. Before you pay your electricity bill. Before you buy new clothes. Before you order food you don't really need. Before you spend money on anything else. Pay yourself first. At first, this idea sounds strange. Most people have never been taught to think this way. From childhood, we're taught to pay everyone else first. We work. We receive our salary. Then we begin paying bills. By the time we've finished paying everyone else, there's almost nothing left for ourselves. And when there is something left, we promise ourselves, I'll start saving next month. But next month becomes next year. And next year becomes the next decade. That's why so many hardworking people reach retirement with very little to show for years of effort. The wealthy reverse this process. The moment money enters their hands, they remove a portion for their future before touching the rest. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. It could be 5%. It could be 10%. It could even be 2% if that's all you can afford today. The amount is less important than the habit. Because the habit trains your mind to see yourself as someone whose future matters. Every time you pay yourself first, you're sending yourself a powerful message. My future is worth investing in. That simple decision changes your identity. You stop living only for today. You begin preparing for tomorrow. And once this habit becomes automatic, something remarkable happens. Your spending starts to change. You become more intentional. You stop asking, can I afford this? Instead, you ask, is this worth delaying my financial freedom? That question has the power to save you thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Story: Sarah's turning point. Sarah was a young office worker. She wasn't rich. Her salary was just enough to cover her monthly expenses. Every payday felt exciting. She would tell herself, I've worked hard. I deserve to enjoy this money. By the middle of the month, most of it was gone. When an emergency happened, she had only one option: borrow money. The stress kept growing. One evening, she attended a financial seminar. The speaker said something she had never forgotten. Don't save what's left after spending. Spend what's left after saving. Those words challenged everything she believed. The following month, Sarah made one decision. Before paying a single bill, she transferred a small amount into a separate savings account. It wasn't much. In fact, she worried it wouldn't make any difference. But she refused to skip it. Month after month, she repeated the habit. At first, it felt uncomfortable. She had to say no to things she used to buy without thinking. But something unexpected happened. She became more creative with her spending. She planned her purchases. She stopped buying things just because they were on sale. Within a year, she had built her first emergency fund. For the first time in her life, an unexpected expense didn't create panic. A few years later, she began investing part of what she had saved. Her money slowly began earning money. She hadn't become wealthy because she won the lottery. She became financially stronger because she changed one habit. That is the true power of paying yourself first. It doesn't just build your bank account. It builds confidence. It builds discipline. It builds peace of mind. And perhaps most importantly, it builds a future that your present self cannot yet imagine. Remember this. Money grows where consistency lives. Not where excuses live. Not where intentions live. But where disciplined habits are practiced again and again. In the next chapter, we'll uncover the psychology behind this habit, why your brain naturally resists it, and how understanding your mind can make this habit easier to build and impossible to break. Chapter 5: The Psychology Behind This Habit. Have you ever promised yourself, "This month, I'll finally save money," only to find yourself spending it before the month was over? If so, you're not alone. The problem isn't that you're lazy. The problem isn't that you're incapable of building wealth. The problem is that your brain is wired to seek immediate rewards. Psychologists call this instant gratification. It's the tendency to choose a small reward now instead of a much bigger reward later. Imagine a child sitting in front of a piece of chocolate. An adult tells the child, "You can eat this chocolate right now. But if you wait just 15 minutes, I'll give you 2. Some children eat it immediately. Others wait patiently. Years of research have shown that people who learn to delay gratification often perform better in many areas of life, including education, relationships, health, and finances. Money works the same way. Every day, life presents you with choices. Buy the latest phone. Or invest in your future. Spend everything this weekend. Or build financial security. The decision may seem small. But repeated over months and years, those choices shape your destiny. Your brain loves comfort. It loves pleasure. It loves convenience. That's why advertisements are so effective. They don't just sell products. They sell emotions. They tell you that buying something will make you happier, more successful, more attractive, or more respected. For a few moments, it feels true. But that feeling fades. Then another advertisement appears. And the cycle begins again. This is why so many people confuse spending with happiness. Real financial freedom isn't built on emotional decisions. It's built on intentional decisions. Every time you pay yourself first, you're teaching your brain something powerful. I am in control. Not my emotions. Not my impulses. Not the latest trend. I decide where my money goes. That single shift changes your identity. And when your identity changes, your habits begin to change naturally. Story: James and the shoes. James loved expensive sneakers. Whenever a new pair was released, he convinced himself he needed them. He would stand in long lines, refresh websites for hours, even use part of his savings just to own the latest design. For a few days, he felt excited. Friends complimented him. He posted photos online. But after a while, the excitement disappeared. Then another new pair came out. The cycle repeated itself. One day, James calculated how much he had spent on shoes over 5 years. The number shocked him. If he had invested even half that money, it could have grown into something meaningful. That realization changed him. He didn't stop buying things he enjoyed. Instead, he created a new rule. Before buying anything he didn't truly need, he would wait 48 hours. If he still believed it was worth it after 2 days, he would buy it. Most of the time, the urge disappeared. He discovered that many of his purchases were driven by emotion, not necessity. That simple pause saved him thousands of dollars. More importantly, it gave him control over his decisions. The lesson is simple. You don't become wealthy by never spending money. You become wealthy by making sure your money serves your goals instead of your impulses. Every dollar is a choice. A choice between today and tomorrow. Between comfort and growth. Between temporary pleasure and lasting freedom. The people who master this habit aren't stronger than everyone else. They simply learn to pause before they spend. That pause becomes discipline. That discipline becomes consistency. And consistency becomes wealth. As we move into the next chapter, you'll discover a powerful story of two friends who started with the same salary but ended up living completely different lives. Not because of luck, but because of the habits they chose every single day. Chapter 6. Two friends, the same salary. Two completely different lives. There is a saying that goes, "Your future is hidden inside your daily habits." At first, those words sound simple. But if you truly understand them, they have the power to transform your financial future forever. Many people believe that wealth is created in dramatic moments. They imagine that one big promotion, one successful business, or one lucky investment will suddenly change everything. But the truth is very different. Wealth is rarely built in one extraordinary moment. It is built in thousands of ordinary moments. The decision to save instead of spend. The decision to invest instead of impress. The decision to think about tomorrow instead of living only for today. To understand this truth, let me tell you a story. Story 1. The journey of Daniel and Samuel. Daniel and Samuel grew up in the same neighborhood. They attended the same secondary school. They played football together every evening. Both dreamed of becoming successful one day. After graduation, they were hired by the same company. Their starting salary was exactly the same. Their working hours were the same. Their opportunities were the same. On payday, they laughed together as they checked their bank accounts. "One day," Daniel said, smiling, "we're going to be rich." Samuel smiled too. "But only if we learn how to keep what we earn." Daniel laughed. "What difference does it make? We'll earn more as time goes on." For the first few months, their lives looked almost identical. Then their habits quietly began to separate them. Every Friday evening, Daniel celebrated payday. New clothes. New shoes. Expensive dinners. Weekend parties. Whenever a new phone was released, Daniel wanted it. Whenever his friends planned a trip, he never wanted to be left out. His favorite sentence became, "I'll save when I start earning more." Samuel enjoyed life too. But every payday, before spending a single dollar, he transferred 10% of his salary into a separate account. It wasn't easy. Sometimes he wanted the latest gadgets. Sometimes he felt tempted to spend everything. But he reminded himself of one simple promise. "My future deserves something from today's paycheck." Months turned into years. Daniel's salary increased. So did his spending. A bigger apartment. A newer car. More subscriptions. More luxury. Every pay raise disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. Samuel also received promotions. But instead of increasing his lifestyle with every raise, he increased his savings and investments. He learned about compound growth. He began investing patiently. His money quietly started working while he slept. One evening, nearly 10 years later, the two friends met again. Daniel looked exhausted. Despite earning more than ever before, he was drowning in debt. His credit cards were full. His car loan consumed a large part of his income. One unexpected medical emergency had almost destroyed his finances. Samuel looked different. Not because he wore expensive clothes. Not because he drove a luxury car. He looked peaceful. There was confidence in the way he spoke. He had an emergency fund. His investments were growing. He wasn't rich overnight. He had simply repeated one habit for 10 years. Daniel looked at his old friend and asked, "How did you get so far ahead?" Samuel smiled gently. "I didn't find a shortcut. I just refused to spend the money that belonged to my future." Those words stayed with Daniel long after they went home. Lesson from Daniel and Samuel. Many people spend years searching for the perfect investment, the perfect business, the perfect opportunity. But before any of those things matter, your habits matter. Income can create opportunity, But habits determine whether opportunity becomes wealth. If you cannot manage a small income wisely, a larger income usually creates larger problems. That's why financial discipline is far more valuable than financial luck. Now let me tell you another story. Story 2: The Shop Owner Who Almost Lost Everything. There was a small shop owner named Grace. Her business was doing well. Customers came every day. Sales kept increasing. Everyone around her assumed she was becoming wealthy. But they couldn't see what was happening behind the scenes. Every time the business made more money, Grace spent more money. She upgraded her lifestyle before strengthening her business. She bought expensive furniture, designer handbags, jewelry, a luxury car. She wanted success to look successful. Then one difficult year arrived. Sales dropped. Suppliers increased their prices. Several important customers stopped buying. Within months, Grace found herself struggling to pay her workers. She couldn't understand what had happened. "My business was making good money," she said. An older businessman listened quietly. Then he asked her one question. "When your business earned more money, did you build reserves, or did you build a lifestyle?" Grace lowered her head. She already knew the answer. Over the next 3 years, she completely changed her habits. She paid herself first. She created an emergency fund for the business. She invested in improving her shop instead of impressing strangers. She learned that real wealth is often invisible. It isn't always seen in luxury cars or expensive clothes. Sometimes real wealth looks like patience, preparation, discipline, peace of mind. Years later, another economic downturn came. Many businesses around her closed. Grace's business survived. Not because she was lucky, but because her habits had prepared her long before the crisis arrived. Apply this lesson to your own life. Pause for a moment and ask yourself these questions. If your income doubled tomorrow, would your savings double too? Or would your spending simply increase? If an emergency happened next month, would you be prepared? Or would you immediately depend on borrowing money? Are you building a future? Or only financing your present? These questions aren't meant to discourage you. They're meant to awaken you. Because awareness is the first step toward transformation. The good news is this: no matter what your financial past looks like, you can choose a different habit today. And one good habit, repeated consistently, can change the direction of your entire life. In the next chapter, we'll discover why small amounts of money, invested consistently, often create greater wealth than large amounts saved only once. You'll learn why consistency beats intensity, and why the smallest financial habit can eventually produce extraordinary results. Chapter 7: Why Small Amounts Matter More Than Big Paychecks. If I offered you a choice between receiving $1 million today or receiving one penny that doubled in value every day for the next 30 days, which would you choose? Most people wouldn't even hesitate. They would take the $1 million. After all, a penny seems almost worthless. What difference could one penny possibly make? That question reveals one of the greatest financial misunderstandings in the world. Our minds are naturally drawn to big numbers. We dream about winning the lottery. We hope for a massive promotion. We imagine receiving an unexpected inheritance. We're attracted to dramatic financial breakthroughs because they feel exciting. But wealth is rarely built through dramatic moments. It is built through consistent actions that seem almost invisible at first. A single coin may not look impressive. A single dollar may not change your life. A single investment may seem too small to matter. But when those small actions are repeated week after week, month after month, and year after year, they begin to create something extraordinary. The problem is that most people quit before they ever reach that point. They look at their first savings and say, "This isn't enough." They look at their first investment and think, "What's the point?" Then they stop. Not because the habit failed, but because they expected instant results. Nature teaches us a different lesson. Think about planting a seed. On the first day, nothing appears. After 1 week, the soil still looks empty. After several weeks, there may still be no visible change. Does that mean the seed is dead? Of course not. Beneath the surface, something important is happening. Roots are growing. Strength is developing. The foundation is being built. Money behaves the same way. The early stages of saving often feel slow. The numbers don't seem impressive. But beneath the surface, another kind of growth is taking place. You're developing patience. You're building discipline. You're proving to yourself that you can keep a promise. Those qualities are far more valuable than the money itself because they stay with you for life. Story 1. The Mechanic Who Saved $5 a Day. In a small town lived a mechanic named Daniel. He wasn't wealthy. His workshop was simple, and his income depended on how many customers came each week. Many days were good. Some days were difficult. Whenever people talked about investing or building wealth, Daniel would smile and say, "That's for people who earn much more than I do." One afternoon, an elderly customer noticed Daniel complaining about never having enough money. The old man asked him, "Can you save $5 today?" Daniel laughed. $5 won't change my life." The old man smiled and replied, "No, but the habit might." Those words stayed with Daniel. The next morning, before opening his workshop, he placed $5 into a small box. He repeated the process every day. Some days he wanted to skip it. Some days business was slow. Some days unexpected expenses appeared. But he made himself keep the promise. Months passed. The box slowly filled. Eventually, Daniel opened a savings account and transferred the money. Later, he began investing a portion of it. Years passed. That tiny daily habit became the foundation of his financial security. Looking back, Daniel realized something important. The $5 had never been the real miracle. The miracle was becoming the kind of person who always paid his future first. Story 2. The Teacher Who Waited Too Long. Grace had always believed she would start saving when life became easier. After graduation, she found a teaching job. Her salary wasn't high, but she believed she still had plenty of time. Then she wanted a better phone, a new wardrobe, a vacation, a nicer apartment. Every year, she promised herself that next year would be different. 15 years passed. One evening, she attended the retirement celebration of an older colleague. As she listened to stories about decades of service, one thought kept echoing in her mind. What have I actually built for my own future? That question haunted her. She went home, opened her bank account, and realized she had almost nothing saved despite years of hard work. Instead of giving up, Grace decided to begin. She started with a small percentage of every paycheck. She tracked her spending. She reduced unnecessary expenses. She invested consistently. Although she started later than she wished, she proved that the best time to begin may have been years ago, but the second best time is today. Her greatest regret wasn't earning too little. It was waiting too long. Story 3. The Market Woman. Every morning before sunrise, a woman named Esther arranged fruit at her market stall. Some days she sold everything. Other days she returned home with baskets still full. Her income was unpredictable. Many people assumed she could never save because she earned too little. But Esther followed one rule. Before buying anything for herself, she placed a small portion of each day's earnings into a separate envelope. It didn't matter whether it was a large amount or a small one. The habit never changed. Years later, when her children needed school fees, she paid them without borrowing. When her stall needed repairs, she had the money ready. Eventually, she expanded into a larger shop while many traders earning more than she did remained trapped in debt. People called her lucky. They never saw the years of discipline behind her success. Luck had very little to do with it. Habit had everything to do with it. The lesson: every great financial journey begins with an amount that feels insignificant. Never underestimate what small, consistent actions can become. The tree that provides shade today once looked too small to notice. The river that shapes mountains begins as tiny drops of water. The wealth that inspires others often begins with a decision that nobody else applauds. Don't wait until you have more money to build the habit. Build the habit now, and one day you'll have more money because of it. Remember, small amounts invested consistently will always defeat large amounts that are never invested at all. As we continue, you'll discover one of the most powerful forces in finance, a force so extraordinary that Albert Einstein is often credited with calling it the eighth wonder of the world. It's called the compound effect, and once you understand it, you'll never look at money the same way again. Chapter 8: The Compound Effect Explained, Part 1. Imagine standing at the foot of a mountain. The peak is hidden behind clouds, so high that you can't even see the top. The climb looks impossible. You wonder if anyone has ever reached the summit. Then you notice something surprising. People aren't getting to the top by taking giant leaps. They're taking one step, then another, then another. Each step seems so small that it hardly looks like progress. Yet hour after hour, day after day, those tiny steps carry them to a place that once seemed impossible. Money works exactly the same way. Most people dream about becoming wealthy overnight. They search for the perfect investment, the winning lottery ticket, the business that will make them rich in a month, the miracle opportunity that promises success without patience. But history tells a different story. Real wealth is usually built quietly. It grows in silence. It grows while other people are chasing excitement. It grows while others are looking for shortcuts. The greatest financial secret isn't speed. It's consistency. This is called the compound effect. The compound effect is the principle that small, consistent actions repeated over a long period produce extraordinary results. At first, the results are almost invisible. You save a little this month. Nothing seems to change. You save again next month. Still, your life looks almost the same. Months pass. You begin to wonder if the effort is worth it. This is the moment when most people quit. Not because the habit doesn't work, but because they cannot yet see what the habit is building beneath the surface. Think about planting a seed. The day you plant it, nothing appears above the ground. A week later, it still looks like nothing has happened. Even after several weeks, the soil may look exactly the same. Does that mean the seed is dead? Of course not. Something powerful is happening where your eyes cannot see. Roots are growing. Strength is developing. The foundation is being built. Only after enough time does the tiny plant break through the surface. From that moment on, everyone notices its growth. But no one saw the invisible work that made it possible. Money behaves in the same way. The first $100 you save may not change your life. The first 1,000 may not impress anyone. But each small step strengthens your financial foundation. Every dollar saved becomes another root beneath the surface. One day, those invisible roots become visible results. Story 1: The Bamboo Farmer. There is a story often told about a bamboo farmer. He plants a special kind of bamboo seed. Every morning he waters it. Every evening he checks the soil. 1 month passes. Nothing. 6 months pass. Still nothing. A full year passes. His neighbors laugh at him. "What are you watering?" they ask. "There's nothing there." But the farmer continues. 2 years. 3 years. 4 years. Still no bamboo. Many people would have given up long ago. They would have assumed the seed had failed. But the farmer understands something the others do not. Growth is happening underground. Then, sometime during the 5th year, something remarkable happens. The bamboo finally breaks through the soil. And within a matter of weeks, it grows dozens of feet into the air. People who see it think the growth happened in weeks. But that's not true. It took 5 years. The bamboo spent years building roots strong enough to support incredible growth. Without those roots, the tree would have collapsed. Your financial life follows the same pattern. When you begin saving, when you begin investing, when you begin paying yourself first, it may feel like nothing is changing. But beneath the surface, something extraordinary is happening. You're building discipline. You're building patience. You're building wisdom. You're building confidence. Those qualities become the roots that support future wealth. Story 2: The Man Who Almost Quit. Daniel worked as a delivery driver. His income wasn't impressive. Every month he saved just a small amount. His friends laughed. "What difference will that make?" they asked. "You'll never become rich saving that little." Sometimes Daniel believed them. There were months when he stared at his savings account and wondered whether all the sacrifice was pointless. After 3 years, the balance still didn't look life-changing. He considered giving up. Then one evening, an older colleague shared a simple truth. He said, "Never judge a tree by the day you plant it." Those words stayed with Daniel. He kept saving. He kept investing. Years later, the money he'd almost given up on had grown far beyond anything he imagined. More importantly, the habit had changed him. Saving was no longer something he forced himself to do. It had become part of his identity. That is the hidden power of the compound effect. The money grows, but the person grows even more. And when your habits grow stronger than your excuses, your future begins to change. As you continue watching, you'll discover that the compound effect isn't only about money. It's about the person you become through thousands of small, wise decisions that no one else notices. Those unseen decisions are often the ones that change everything. Chapter 8: The Compound Effect Explained, Part 2. If there is one reason people underestimate the power of the compound effect, it is because our minds are trained to notice dramatic changes, not gradual ones. Imagine you place a single drop of water into a large bucket. Nothing seems different. Add another drop. Still nothing. Then another. And another. No one watching would say the bucket is changing. But every single drop is bringing it closer to the moment when it overflows. Success works like that. Wealth works like that. Life works like that. Small actions often appear meaningless until one day they become impossible to ignore. The danger is that most people quit before they reach that moment. They mistake invisible progress for no progress. That is one of the greatest financial mistakes a person can make. Story 3: The Bakery on the Corner. There was a small bakery owned by an elderly couple named Grace and Samuel. The bakery wasn't famous. It wasn't located in the busiest part of town. Some days, only a handful of customers walked through the door. A young man once asked Samuel, "How did you become successful? Did you have a lucky break?" Samuel smiled. "My lucky break?" he said. "It was opening the shop every morning for 30 years. The young man laughed, thinking it was a joke. But Samuel continued, "We didn't become successful because one day thousands of people suddenly appeared. We became successful because we treated every customer with respect. One customer told another. Then another. Then another." For years, the bakery grew so slowly that it almost seemed as though nothing was happening. But eventually it became one of the most trusted businesses in the town. The compound effect had been working all along. Not through one spectacular event, but through thousands of ordinary days. Money grows in exactly the same way. One wise decision. One saved dollar. One disciplined month. One patient year. They seem ordinary. But together, they create an extraordinary future. Story 4: The Young Carpenter. A young carpenter named Joseph dreamed of owning his own construction company. He earned just enough to survive. Many evenings, after paying his bills, he had only a small amount left. His friends spent their weekends buying expensive gadgets, eating at costly restaurants, and trying to impress people they barely knew. Joseph made a different choice. Every payday, he set aside a small portion before spending anything else. Then he bought books about business. He learned new construction techniques. He invested in better tools one piece at a time. People thought he was moving too slowly. "Why don't you take a big loan and expand immediately?" they asked. Joseph simply smiled. "I'd rather build a strong foundation than a fast one." Years passed. The friends who laughed at him were still struggling with debt. Joseph, however, had saved enough to buy a used truck. That truck helped him take on larger projects. Those projects earned more income. Instead of spending the extra money, he reinvested it. A few years later, he hired his first employee. Then another. Then another. Eventually, the young carpenter who had once worried about paying rent owned a respected construction company. People admired his success. What they didn't see were the thousands of quiet decisions that made it possible. Every small act of discipline had compounded into something remarkable. The silent power of time. Time is one of the few things every person receives equally. Every day, each of us is given 24 hours. The difference is how we use them. Money is similar. Every payday gives you another opportunity. You can consume it all. Or you can allow part of it to build your future. Think about two people standing in the rain. One places a bucket outside every time it rains. The other complains that he never has enough water. After many storms, who will have more? Not because the rain favored one person, but because one person prepared to collect what was already available. Every paycheck is like a rainstorm. Some people let every drop disappear. Others collect a portion for tomorrow. Over time, that simple habit creates an enormous difference. A question that can change your life. Ask yourself this question honestly. If I continue managing money exactly as I do today for the next 10 years, where will I be? Don't answer based on hope. Answer based on your current habits. Because your future is rarely determined by your intentions. It is determined by your routines. If your habits improve, your future improves. If your habits stay the same, your future usually stays the same. The beautiful truth is this. You don't have to transform your financial life in a single day. You only have to make one wise decision today. Then repeat it tomorrow. And the day after that. Eventually, those small choices become a powerful force that works for you instead of against you. That is the true miracle of the compound effect. It doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be consistent. And consistency, practiced over years, has the power to accomplish what motivation alone never can. In the next part of this chapter, you'll discover why some people unknowingly allow the compound effect to work against them through debt, poor habits, and unnecessary spending, and how you can ensure it always works in your favor. Chapter 8: The Compound Effect Explained, Part 3. There is something most people never realize about the compound effect. It is always working. It doesn't ask whether your habits are good or bad. It simply multiplies whatever you repeat. If you repeat wise decisions, it multiplies wisdom. If you repeat careless decisions, it multiplies the consequences. The compound effect is like the wind. The same wind that can carry a ship safely to its destination can also push another ship onto the rocks. The difference is not the wind. The difference is the direction of the sail. Your habits are the sails of your financial life. Every decision adjusts their direction. Every purchase. Every investment. Every debt. Every act of discipline. Every moment of impatience. Everything compounds. Story 5: The Coffee That Cost a Fortune. Meet Michael. Michael loved premium coffee. Every morning before work, he stopped at the same cafe. The coffee wasn't cheap, but he never thought much about it. It's only a small amount, he would tell himself. It's not going to make me poor. And he was right. One cup of coffee never made him poor. But one cup became another. Then another. 5 days a week. 52 weeks a year. Year after year. One afternoon, Michael sat down with an older financial mentor named Mr. Benson. During their conversation, Michael complained that he could never seem to save money. Mr. Benson didn't criticize him. Instead, he asked a simple question. Would you mind writing down everything you spend money on for the next 30 days? Michael agreed. At the end of the month, he was shocked. There wasn't one huge expense destroying his finances. There were hundreds of tiny ones. Coffee. Snacks. Impulse purchases. Subscriptions he had forgotten about. Late-night online shopping. Food deliveries when there was already food at home. None of them looked dangerous on their own. Together, they were quietly stealing his future. Mr. Benson smiled and said, "It's rarely one giant hole that sinks a ship. It's the small leaks that are ignored." That sentence changed Michael's life. He didn't stop enjoying coffee. He simply became intentional. Some mornings he made coffee at home. Other mornings he treated himself without guilt because it was planned, not impulsive. The money he saved each month went into investments. Years later, those small changes had grown into something he never imagined possible. He discovered that the compound effect works just as powerfully with small savings as it does with large ones. Story 6. The Weight of 1%. A university professor once gave his students a challenge. He drew 2 lines on the board. The first line rose upward very slowly. The second line sloped gently downward. Then he asked, "What happens if you improve by just 1% every day?" The students guessed. Some said nothing would really change. Others thought the difference would be small. The professor smiled. "Now imagine the opposite. What happens if you become 1% less disciplined every day?" Again, the changes seemed insignificant. But after enough time, the distance between the 2 paths became enormous. The lesson wasn't only about learning. It was about life. Imagine saving just a little more each month. Reading 1 book about money every few weeks. Avoiding 1 unnecessary purchase each day. Learning 1 new financial principle every month. None of those actions seem extraordinary. But after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you become almost unrecognizable compared to the person you once were. The opposite is also true. Ignore your finances for years. Spend without thinking. Borrow without planning. Delay saving. Until next month. Those tiny choices also compound. The future doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives 1 decision at a time. The 2 trees. Picture 2 young trees planted on the same day. The first tree is watered regularly. Its soil is cared for. Its roots grow stronger every season. The second tree is neglected. Sometimes it receives water. Sometimes it doesn't. Some years, it barely survives. At first, they look almost identical. But after 20 years, one stands tall and strong, providing shade, fruit, and shelter. The other struggles just to remain standing. The difference wasn't created in a single storm. It was created by thousands of ordinary days. Your financial life is one of those trees. Every wise decision is another drop of water. Every act of discipline strengthens your roots. Every investment in your future helps you grow stronger. Never underestimate what today's decision can become tomorrow. Reflection. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what habit am I repeating that is quietly shaping my financial future? Is it a habit that builds wealth? Or one that slowly destroys it? What small decision could I make today that my future self will thank me for? Remember, your future isn't built in a single dramatic moment. It's built in the ordinary choices no one applauds. The dollars no one sees you save. The temptations no one sees you resist. The investments no one knows you've made. Those quiet moments are where wealth is truly born. And as we move into the next chapter, you'll hear the remarkable story of a humble janitor who never earned a fortune, yet died a millionaire, not because of luck, but because he understood the power of patience, discipline, and the compound effect long before anyone else noticed. Chapter 9. The Janitor Who Became a Millionaire, Part 1. There is a common belief that only people with extraordinary incomes can become wealthy. Many believe that if they don't earn 6 figures, if they don't own a successful company, if they weren't born into a rich family, then financial freedom is simply out of reach. But every now and then, a story comes along that completely destroys that belief. This is one of those stories. It is not the story of a famous businessman. It is not the story of a celebrity. It is not the story of someone who invented a revolutionary product. It is the story of a man whose job was often overlooked. A man who quietly cleaned classrooms after everyone else had gone home. A man who swept floors, emptied trash bins, polished hallways, and worked long hours without applause. To many people, he was just a janitor. But they had no idea what he was building behind the scenes. Every morning before sunrise, he arrived at work with the same smile. He greeted teachers with kindness. He treated every student with respect. He never complained about the size of his paycheck. He understood something that most people never learn. Your income does not determine your future. Your habits do. His name was Thomas. Thomas lived a simple life. He drove an old car. He wore modest clothes. He never felt the need to impress anyone. Some people assumed he was poor because of the way he lived. Others looked down on him because of his job. They judged his life by what they could see. But they never saw what happened every payday. The moment his salary entered his account, Thomas followed the same routine. Before paying for entertainment. Before buying anything unnecessary. Before treating himself. He paid himself first. Every single month. Without exception. Sometimes it was only a small amount. Sometimes unexpected expenses forced him to save less. But he never skipped the habit. He understood that consistency was more important than perfection. One afternoon, a younger employee named Kevin approached him during lunch. Kevin had just received a pay raise. He was excited. "I can't wait to buy a new car," he said. Thomas smiled. "That's wonderful," he replied. "But let me ask you something." Kevin nodded. "If your salary doubled tomorrow, would your savings double too?" Kevin laughed. "I don't think so." Thomas leaned back and quietly said, "Then your income isn't the problem." Those words stayed with Kevin. At first, he didn't fully understand them. But over the years, he watched Thomas carefully. Thomas never rushed to buy the newest phone. He never competed with anyone. He never allowed other people's lifestyles to pressure him into spending money he didn't need to spend. Instead, he quietly invested. Month after month. Year after year. He wasn't chasing quick riches. He was building lasting freedom. The secret no one noticed. One thing made Thomas different. He understood that wealth is often invisible. Many people think wealth is expensive watches, luxury cars, designer clothes, large houses. But those things can be bought with debt. True wealth is different. True wealth is the money you don't see. It's the investments quietly growing in the background. It's the emergency fund that allows you to sleep peacefully. It's the freedom to make choices without fear. Thomas knew this. While others spent money trying to look rich, he allowed his money to work quietly for him. No applause. No attention. No need to prove anything. He had learned one of the greatest financial lessons of all. Looking wealthy and being wealthy are not the same thing. Story within the story, the two brothers. Thomas often shared a story with Kevin. He spoke about two brothers, Daniel and Andrew. Both inherited the same amount of money from their father. Daniel immediately upgraded everything. A larger apartment. A luxury car. Expensive furniture. Vacations that looked impressive on social media. People admired his lifestyle. Andrew made a different choice. He invested most of the inheritance. He continued living below his means. Friends questioned him. "Why are you living so simply when you have money?" Andrew smiled and answered, "I'm not trying to impress today's audience. I'm preparing for tomorrow's opportunities." 10 years later, Daniel's inheritance was gone. Debt had replaced comfort. Stress had replaced excitement. Andrew's investments had grown. His money produced more money. He wasn't richer because he inherited more. He was richer because he managed it differently. Thomas looked at Kevin and quietly said, "Money doesn't change people. It reveals the habits they already have." Kevin never forgot those words. They became the beginning of a completely different way of thinking about wealth. As the years passed, Thomas continued following the same routine. He never became famous. He never appeared on television. He never gave financial seminars. Yet quietly, almost unnoticed, he was becoming something very few people expected. A millionaire. Not through luck. Not through gambling. Not through sudden success. but through ordinary decisions repeated with extraordinary consistency. In the next part of this chapter, you'll discover the moment that shocked an entire community when they learned what the quiet janitor had built, and the life-changing lessons his story continues to teach people around the world. Chapter 9: The Janitor Who Became a Millionaire, Part 2. For more than 35 years, Thomas followed the same routine. He arrived early, worked with excellence, lived below his means, paid himself first, invested consistently. Then he went home and repeated the process the next day. It wasn't exciting. There were no dramatic moments, no overnight success, no headlines. His life looked ordinary. But ordinary habits, repeated faithfully, often produce extraordinary results. One Friday afternoon, the school organized a small retirement celebration. Teachers gathered in the auditorium. Students who had graduated years earlier returned to thank the man who had quietly encouraged them through difficult times. One teacher stepped onto the stage. "We're here today to honor a man who has done more than clean this school," she said. "He has shown us what integrity, humility, and consistency look like." The room filled with applause. Thomas smiled politely. He thanked everyone, accepted a simple plaque, shook a few hands, and quietly went home. To everyone else, it was the end of an ordinary career. They had no idea they were saying goodbye to a millionaire. The discovery. Several months later, word began to spread. One of Thomas's former coworkers met with him for lunch. During their conversation, the truth came out. Thomas had accumulated investments worth more than $1 million. The coworker was stunned. "$1 million?" he asked. "How is that possible? You were earning almost the same salary as the rest of us." Thomas smiled. "I wasn't trying to become rich overnight," he replied. "I was trying to become a little wiser every month." That sentence traveled through the community. People couldn't believe it. Some assumed he had inherited money. Others thought he must have won the lottery. When they learned that neither was true, they asked the same question. Then how did he do it? The answer disappointed people who wanted a shortcut. There wasn't one. Thomas simply lived differently. While others increased their spending every time they received a raise, he increased his investments. While others borrowed money to impress strangers, he invested money to secure his future. While others chased appearances, he chased freedom. That was the difference. Story within the story, the lottery winner. Around the same time, another story was making headlines. A man named Victor had won an enormous lottery prize. Friends celebrated him. News reporters interviewed him. Luxury car dealerships welcomed him. Within months, Victor bought a mansion, several expensive cars, designer clothing, lavish vacations. He loaned money to friends who never repaid him. He made risky investments without understanding them. He believed the money would never run out. 5 years later, the fortune was gone. The mansion was sold. The cars disappeared. Debt replaced wealth. Victor had received more money in one day than Thomas had earned in many years. Yet Thomas became the millionaire. Why? Because wealth is not created by receiving money. It is created by managing money. Money in careless hands disappears. Money in disciplined hands grows. A lesson every parent should teach. Imagine 2 children. One child receives pocket money every week and spends every coin before the next allowance arrives. The other child spends a little, saves a little, and learns patience. Years later, those children become adults. Their income changes. Their responsibilities increase. But their habits remain. One continues spending everything. The other continues saving and investing. The difference didn't begin with adulthood. It began with the habits they practiced when no one was paying attention. That's why building good money habits today matters so much. You're not only changing your bank account. You're changing the person you become. The real meaning of wealth. One afternoon, Kevin asked Thomas one final question. If you could teach young people just one lesson about money, what would it be? Thomas looked out of the window for a moment before answering. I would tell them that wealth is not about having the biggest house. It is not about owning the newest car. It is not about making other people jealous. Real wealth is waking up without fear. It is knowing that an emergency won't destroy your life. It is having the freedom to help your family. It is sleeping peacefully because your future is no longer controlled by your next paycheck. Kevin nodded silently. For the first time, he understood. Thomas had never wanted to look rich. He wanted to be free. And freedom was worth far more than applause. As you listen to this story, ask yourself, what kind of life am I building? Am I spending my money to impress people who will forget tomorrow? Or am I building a future that will protect me and the people I love? The quiet janitor answered that question with his actions long before anyone noticed. And because of those actions, he left behind something far greater than money. He left behind an example. An example that proves an ordinary person, earning an ordinary income, can achieve extraordinary financial security through extraordinary consistency. In the next chapter, we'll uncover the daily habits that nearly every wealth builder shares. They may seem simple, but practiced every day, they create the foundation for lasting financial success. Chapter 10: The Daily Habits of Wealth Builders, Part 1. Have you ever met someone who seems to have complete control over their finances? They don't panic when unexpected bills arrive. They don't seem stressed every payday. They don't chase every new trend or every flashy opportunity. Instead, they move through life with quiet confidence. From the outside, it may appear that they were simply lucky. Maybe they inherited money. Maybe they found the perfect investment. Maybe they earn an enormous salary. But when you look closer, you discover something surprising. Their wealth wasn't built by one extraordinary decision. It was built by hundreds of ordinary decisions repeated every single day. The truth is that successful people don't simply have different bank accounts. They have different habits. Your daily habits are like votes. Every decision you make is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you save instead of spending, you vote for financial freedom. Every time you invest instead of consuming, you vote for long-term wealth. Every time you learn something new about money, you vote for a wiser future. Those votes may seem insignificant today, but after thousands of them, they determine the outcome of your life. That is why wealthy people protect their daily habits so carefully. They understand that success is rarely lost in one dramatic moment. It is usually lost through small acts of carelessness repeated over time. Habit 1: They give every dollar a purpose. Imagine receiving your monthly salary. For many people, that money sits in their account without a plan. As the days pass, little purchases slowly eat away at it. A meal here. An online order there. A subscription they forgot they were paying for. Before they realize it, the money is gone. Then comes the familiar question: where did all my money go? Wealth builders ask a different question before they spend a single dollar. Where should this money go? That one question changes everything. Instead of allowing money to disappear by accident, they give every dollar a specific assignment. Some money pays the bills. Some builds an emergency fund. Some is invested. Some is reserved for learning new skills. Some is used to enjoy life responsibly. Nothing is left to chance. Money performs best when it has direction. Story 1: The Envelope Method. A young nurse named Rebecca often wondered why she was always broke. She earned a respectable income. She worked overtime. She rarely missed a shift. Yet every month ended exactly the same way. One evening she visited her grandmother, who noticed the frustration on her face. After listening carefully, her grandmother disappeared into another room and returned with several empty envelopes. She wrote one word on each envelope: rent, food, transportation, savings, investment, emergency fund. Rebecca looked confused. Her grandmother smiled. When I was your age, she said, I didn't have banking apps or budgeting software. I only had envelopes. Every payday, I placed money into each envelope before spending anything. When the entertainment envelope was empty, I stopped spending. When the grocery envelope became smaller, I planned meals more carefully. I never wondered where my money went because I had already decided where it should go. Rebecca decided to try the same principle. She didn't use paper envelopes. She created separate accounts instead. The first month felt uncomfortable. The second month became easier. By the sixth month, something incredible had happened. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of payday. She wasn't wondering if she would have enough. She knew exactly where every dollar belonged. That simple habit transformed not only her finances, but also her peace of mind. Habit 2, they learn before they earn more. One of the biggest misconceptions about wealth is that money automatically creates financial intelligence. It doesn't. In fact, many people receive promotions, bonuses, or business profits, only to lose the extra income because their knowledge never grew with their paycheck. Wealth builders understand a powerful truth. The more you learn, the better you earn. And the better you manage what you earn. They read books. They listened to educational podcasts. They watched documentaries. They study successful investors. They ask questions. Most importantly, they remain humble enough to admit they don't know everything. Knowledge is one investment that no market crash can take away from you. Story 2. The mechanic who read for 20 minutes. Daniel worked as a mechanic. His hands were always covered in grease by the end of the day. He never attended a prestigious university. He wasn't born into a wealthy family. But he made one promise to himself. Every night before going to bed, he would spend 20 minutes reading something about business, money, or personal growth. His friends laughed. What difference can 20 minutes make? Daniel never argued. He simply kept reading. One book introduced him to budgeting. Another explained investing. Another taught him negotiation. Another showed him how to start a side business. Those 20-minute sessions slowly changed the way he thought. A few years later, Daniel opened a small repair shop. Then another. Then a third. People admired his success. Few realized it began with 20 quiet minutes every evening. That's the power of daily habits. They rarely change your life overnight. They change the person you become. And when the person changes, the results eventually follow. Reflection. Pause for a moment and think about your own routine. When you wake up each day, are your habits leading you toward financial freedom? Or are they quietly pulling you away from it? Remember, your future is not hidden somewhere in the distance. It is hidden inside the small decisions you make today. Every dollar has a destination. Every habit has a consequence. Every day is another opportunity to become the person your future self is depending on. And in the next part of this chapter, you'll discover more powerful daily habits shared by financially successful people, including one habit so simple that most people ignore it, even though it has the power to completely reshape their financial future.